Hey guys, it's just me again, and I'm going to be talking about pretty much all the shows that I used to work at CBS in Hollywood when I was a CBS page, and just what I thought about them, and like if I can rank them between 0 and 10. And okay, let's go. One show that I worked on that I didn't really like working on was called The Helpline with Morris Cerullo. The audience was nice, but I didn't like the show. Pages and myself didn't really like the show. It was pretty much like my ex-girlfriend is doing right now, Kim Meredith. Fake psychic. Fake preacher. Fake healer. This guy claimed he could heal people by just touching them. It didn't make sense. It was a funny concept, though. He'd be talking about, oh, when you're home and you drink your hot coffee or tea or hot lemonade, and me and a couple of the pages are looking at each other and like, what? And we'll try not to laugh. It taped in the Price is Right studio. So that was fun. Being inside the Bob Barker studio was always fun. But that was one of the worst shows that I was a CBS page at. I only worked it like twice. Another show, so that would be like 0 on 10. Another show that I worked on was Real Time with Bill Maher. And it had some okay guests. It had Roseanne as one guest one time. I liked that. It also filmed in the Bob Barker studio. So one time they needed audience, so some of us pages had to sit in the audience for filler. And I always liked doing that. I liked when Roseanne was on, but other times I didn't really care for the guests. So that was one of the shows I didn't really like working on. I'd say 0 on 10 for that one as well. Then I worked one time, I believe it was just once, on the Tyra Banks show. That was okay. I remember Danielle Fishel was a guest on that. And she was walking by the hallway. Hello, boys. She was walking by me and a couple of us pages. Hello, boys. Hello. I'm like, hi. So, I would say Tyra Banks was, wasn't, I would say 3 on 10. Then I worked on Grease, You're the One That I Want. And that was a competition show to see who'd be the next stars of the Grease on Broadway or something. That was fun to work on. That was a lot of fun. I remember Frankie Avalon was a guest one episode. I was like, wow. Who would have thought I'd meet Annette Funicello's niece about a year later, huh? That show, I'd say, was, I'd say 7 on 10. I remember the families of the competitors. I remember one of the girls' names was Kate that was competing, and they were giving us, buttons or pins. I have it saved here somewhere. Kate. It's like, vote for Kate. She's great. But, we couldn't be influenced by anybody, no matter what show we worked on, even if it was a competitive show or a show where people got called down. So we couldn't really, we couldn't be involved in, the decision making. So if they gave us trinkets or whatever, okay, but we can't be like, oh yeah, you're going to be your family member's going to have the upper hand who's going to get picked or go to the next round. We couldn't do that. But the families were very nice. I remember they were very nice on that show. Then I worked on So You Think You Can Dance. Awful audience. All they wanted to do was go to the bathroom. All they wanted to do. And they used to get up and walk around, and, the pages didn't really like that. I would say, it was okay watching the dancing, but I would say 4 on 10. Wasn't my favorite show. Then I worked on, Don't Forget the Lyrics. I worked on, the pilot of that. The very first episode I worked on, it was, the very first one. And there was a girl that I think she won the most you can get, like 300,000 or whatever the heck it was, one of the top amounts. And she left. She left with a big amount too. So it was probably one of the first competitors that they aired. It was a girl. It was a very fun show. I liked that show, working on that. It was a fun show. That was with, was it Wayne Brady? I think it was when he hosted it. Yeah, before he got Let's Make a Deal. That filmed in 2007 to like 8 or something. Then 8 to 9, and then you get that show. I would say Don't Forget the Lyrics was like, I'll say 7 on 10. Then I worked on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Also a great, fun show to work on, because I love game shows. The audience was a lot of fun on that show too. I remember when we used to escort them in the bathroom, they were very nice, talkative with us. I would say 5th grader, and I would say Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader and Don't Forget the Lyrics. Those two shows were like up there, like in like 8 on 10. Then I worked on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. One of the best shows to work on. Most of the time I was guarding his bathroom door. And I loved doing that because I used to get to talk to the security guard, Geneva. We'd talk in the hallway. She'd be talking to all the celebrities who'd be waiting to go on. I'd just be sitting there. And then I'd break the ice with them. I got to meet and talk to Alice Cooper, who sang School's Out for the Summer. I got to meet Terry Crews. I got to meet Chevy Chase. I got to meet, what's the guy's name? Oh, boy. He died, though. He was like 80-something when he died, a couple of years after I met him. Oh, boy. What? Why can't I remember his name? He was very quiet before he went on. And I was like, I don't know you. I'm like, I know of you, but I've never really watched your stuff. Because she was talking to him. Geneva was all flirty with everybody. And then she goes, this kid over here doesn't know who you are. He's like, new school. And he looked at me, he smiled. I think it was the one who played in the Bible. Not Charleston Heston, the other one. One of them. Oh my God. Why can't I remember the guy's name? It's coming to me, but I forget the name. It was a guy. He was very quiet behind the scenes. He was like just smiling at me. He's like, Peter O'Toole. That's who it was. He just very quiet. Geneva was there talking, and before he went on, he was just like, and he looks at me. He's like, just smiling. I met Randy Jackson. Bob Saget waved at me when he was walking by one time. I met Henry Winkler a couple of times. He was very nice to me. And he remembered me too the second time he saw me. And then I met the Montgomery Gentry Band. They were all there, ready to go on and perform. And Geneva, she's there talking and eating jelly beans, Jelly Belly jelly beans. And one of the band members is like, oh, let's make up a song about jelly beans while we're waiting. And I'm like, jelly, jelly, jelly bean. I'm doing my own thing, doing my own, bad singing, according to Chuck, my ex-best friend. And he's like, wow, that's good. And I'm like, I sing with the Price is Right audience all the time out in line. And I was giving him some, of my lyrics I was doing with Knots Landing theme song and Falcon Crest and The Price is Right. And they're like, wow, that's pretty different. That's nice. That's good. That's different, but it's good what you're doing. So they liked my singing. They liked my creating. Unlike Chuck. So like I say, the Montgomery Gentry Band praised my singing. We were just there hanging out, talking, just shooting the breeze. And Craig Ferguson, every time he came to his bathroom door, he'd pat me on the shoulder. Hi, how are you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. Good seeing you. Hi. And then one of the directors, it was the episode Piper Perabo. Piper Perabo was a guest on that night. And they said, let's get the page in the skit. So I'm sitting there, and then they go, stand here. Craig's writing assistant's going to come out with Piper in the hallway. They're going to be talking, and she's going to say, you know, Craig doesn't find your writing funny. So he's like all worried, and she walks off. I'm standing there, and I pat him on my shoulder, and I say, it's okay, man. You're so funny to me. And then, end scene. And that was supposed to air that night, if it had aired. Because it was a gamble if it was going to air or not. And then Craig walks by, and he's like, he's looking at me, he's like, oh, okay. And he walks off, because he's like, oh yeah, they put him in the skit. So, Geneva, the security guard, told me, oh, they had you sign something, right? And I'm like, yeah. They gave me a form to fill out. And she goes, well, they gave me the same thing. She goes, when I get to be on the show, she walks across the stage, and she goes, chicken and monkeys, chicken and monkeys. So she had that once or a couple of times while she was working on the show as a security guard. And she goes, if you sign something and they air it, you will get paid. If they don't send you the bill and you don't even watch the footage or you didn't tune in, you didn't get paid and they didn't air it. But use it on a resume because you did this. You feel you were in the scene. So that's something I could say I did at Craig Ferguson. And it didn't air. It's probably in the vault somewhere. And it was the episode with Piper Perabo when she guest starred on that episode. Guest host, whatever. And his guest. And Craig's writing assistant for the episode. And I remember one of the girls who was a student with me in the UCLA Professional Screenwriting Program, she was a PA on the show. Me. I had connections. I just didn't ask, right? So, that was a lot of fun. I would say Craig Ferguson was 9 on 10. Then I worked on American Idol. I love singing. I just didn't really care for the setup. I like game shows. I don't really care for those competing shows. But I got to work the Sanjaya season. And I remember, it was the second last episode of the season. And there was Jordan Sparks. And she's waiting by the stage to perform. And I'm right next to her, guarding the stage. And there was her, Blake, and some other girl, Latoya, the third place, who came in third. And Simon, beautiful Simon, who's schmoozing with Chuck now because Chuck is all up there now in AGT. He was berating her, the third place singer. And she goes, is Simon criticizing her? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds that way. And she's shaking her head at me. She goes, awful. So I could say I talked to Jordan Sparks before she became the American Idol of that season, the week later. It was down to her and Blake. And Blake, I remember behind the scenes, he was very, very stuck up. The girls liked him just for the looks. Boasting. So I was like, please don't let him win. And he didn't. I was like, thank God Jordan won. I'm like, Jordan's going to win hands down. If he wins, it's just all on ego and looks. Jordan was the best that season. I would say American Idol, I would say 8 on 10. 8 on 10. Then I worked on Dancing with the Stars. And like American Idol, it wasn't my show to work. I just didn't care for working that show. And then my ex-best friend Chuck made it even worse when he became a PA. It was okay before he became a PA. But when he became a PA, when I was out in line with my fellow pages, and he did what he did when that Virgin producer came to the show about the Virgin show, and then all the mocking me for my virginity, for my YouTubes, for this, for that, whatever. I didn't like that, how he was bashing me in front of OCA. I was nice to everybody, I was kind to everybody, and my fellow pages did not like it. So, I would say Dancing with the Stars, I would say 3 on 10. 3 on 10. American Idol was a lot better to work on than that. I don't know if there are any other shows I left out, but out of all those were what I felt between 0 and 10. And then, The Price is Right was the show. 10 on 10, hands down. If there was any show I wanted to work on, it was that. And I loved working that show. And I got to work on that the most out of every show that filmed at CBS. And then after that one, I would say The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. And then I also did other things, like I worked in the CBS ticket booth. I worked in the CBS ticket office. I worked doing accounting, giving out the checks on Friday sometimes. And then I got to work at the CBS Fall Press Tour at the Beverly Hills Hotel near Wilshire. And that was a lot of fun. We were being like press moderators. We were holding the microphone, getting ready to pass it off to other producers and staffers who worked at CBS behind the scenes. And then we were there to see Drew Carey when he became the host of The Price is Right. He had just been named, and I remember him saying, "I'd like to change the name of the show to The Magic Golden Wheel." And I'm like, what? And then my friend Mike, Mike Mitchell, who became famous as an actor, he's like, "Mark, Drew's just a comedian. He's not going to change the name of the show. He's just being a funny guy." I'm like, okay. But then we got to see the cast of Kane before they premiered. They were talking about how it was going to be the new Dallas or Dynasty. I was really into that show. And then we got to see the whole cast of The Big Bang Theory before they premiered that fall of 2007. And those were a lot of fun to watch. And then we had peanuts. We were giving out peanuts to the producers and the high-ups because the fans of Jericho demanded another season. And they were giving out peanuts because they sent in peanuts to the big production staff to demand another season of the show. So all the high-up network execs were all laughing because of that. And I was talking to a few of them behind the scenes. And they liked me. "Oh, you work at The Price is Right?" "Yeah, I do my thing with the audience." "Oh, that's a lot of fun." So I would say that was a lot of fun working the CBS press tour, fall 2007 press tour. It was in the summer. It was in July of 2007. It was a lot of fun. And I think those were all the shows I worked on. I don't think I left anything out. The Price is Right, The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, Dancing with the Stars, American Idol, Ice Mom and a Fifth Grader, Don't Forget the Lyrics, Tyra Banks Show, Real Time with Bill Maher, and then that stupid Morris Cerullo Helpline, and then the CBS Fall Press Tour of 2007, and then CBS Ticket Office, CBS Ticket Window out in Fairfax, and accounting. And that's why I thought of all the shows and all the places I worked at CBS when I was a CBS page in Hollywood in 2007.